Hi, my name's Mark, and the game I'm working on is called Song of Sonotas, and it's a roguelite action game set on an alien planet in an underwater setting. My original idea for the game came from I was playing a lot of the original Legend of Zelda, and I really liked the rooms of the dungeons. And how you sort of enter one, you assess what enemies are there. At first they seem quite daunting, and then you learn about their patterns and how to overcome them, and as you learn the game, the dungeons become easier and easier from your knowledge of the game, as well as upgrades to your character. Learning about the game and knowing that the blue enemies are harder to kill than the red enemies, and that certain enemies move in certain patterns, and once you know those patterns you find it easier to overcome them. So originally I quite liked that idea, and I'd also been playing a lot of Mortal Shell, the DLC that was released for it, the Virtuous Cycle, which turns the game, the main campaign, into a roguelike where you have some permanent upgrades at the start of a run, but mostly throughout the game you run in, enemies are randomly placed, the dungeons are somewhat randomized, and as you play the game you get all of these upgrades that can increase your max health, stamina, attack damage. Hold on, I gotta let my cat in because he's going crazy. I had the idea of combining this sort of simple dungeon layout of Zelda and a roguelike formula where things are randomly generated and you get upgrades. And it turns out that Binding of Isaac is pretty much exactly that. So that was a little discouraging because I didn't want to just completely copy Binding of Isaac. So I figured a way that I'd like to stand out from that game and give my game some identity was the setting and the story. I spent quite a bit of time designing around this story of an alien planet that's inhabitants mainly live underwater. There's some big calamity that happens on the planet that basically wipes out the native race. Hundreds of years later, you come along as an explorer from Earth and you're diving down to the depths of the planet to investigate sort of what happened and to collect resources of a precious substance that is found on the planet called luminite. I started with some prototyping. Originally, I wanted to make it for mobile phones because I've been developing a lot of mobile phone prototypes recently. I quite like playing mobile games. But after playing with it for a little bit, I figured that a PC release would be better suited. I wanted to have things like attacking, dashing, special moves. All of these sort of inputs would be hard to do just on a touch screen. I think a controller or mouse and keyboard would be much more suited. So I quite liked in Hades how you could start a run with a particular weapon, and if that weapon was to your liking you'd keep using it, or if you wanted to change it up the next run you could use a different weapon. So I designed 3 different weapon types for different play styles, a few different character or skin types that give different stats. Yeah, and a bunch of different enemies that when you look at them they have certain design features that indicate how they're going to act, and as you play the game you learn about how to overcome them. I guess I'll play some footage now of the development process. I started with basically getting the movement down. My first sort of goal for the first fortnight of working on the game was to get all 3 weapons working, so a model for them, a texture for them, an animation for the main player to perform while attacking, and some basic sort of enemies that can get hit and knocked around. And my plan is to basically have a single level design that plays more or less like it will in the final game, and that will be my first goal. So yeah.